Episode 3. Rosalind couldn't seem to get enough air into her lungs, and she felt lightheaded. Memories started flooding back of her and Andrew, their bodies writhing and entwined in bed. Every time, he'd softly call out a name that she could never fully hear, and she always hoped it was hers-Rosalyn. Only now did she realize that he was not calling out to her, but to Crystal. Rosalind clenched her fists, and her long nails dug into her flesh, but she felt no pain. The suffocating feelings of humiliation and abandonment overwhelmed her, and she couldn't fight her tears. She was so stupid to have fallen in love with Andrew, a man who would never ever love her back. After exchanging pleasantries, Crystal took Andrew's arm and followed Lily to the CEO's office. Bella craned her neck and looked at their backs with envy. Mr. Kingston personally picked her up and escorted her on her first day of work. That has to mean he still loves her. Olivia patted her shoulder and said, "It's not just that. She's only just returned to the country and she's already taking over as CEO, so the old shareholders may not be completely convinced she's up to the task." By personally escorting her on her first day, Mr. Kingston is warning everyone that she is similar to our new CEO. Olivia also came over to take a close look. "Jesus, you do look a bit like her, Rosalind. But honestly, I think you're way prettier." "Don't be ridiculous," Rosalind said abruptly, and then she got up and went to the bathroom. "What's up with her?" Bella looked at Rosalind's thin back and asked worriedly. Olivia sneered and said, "Maybe she's jealous because she thinks Crystal is so much luckier than her, even though they practically have the same face." Bella didn't continue. Olivia had always been two-faced, so it was better not to talk to her too much. Rosalind entered the bathroom and quickly took out some medicine to relieve the pain in her heart. She was so anxious that she swallowed it down without drinking any water. After calming down for a few long moments, she turned on the faucet, splashed her face with cold water, and looked up at her reflection. It was clear that Rosalind's illness was ravaging her body, her cheeks sunken and her skin dull. But Crystal... While she was in a daze, the bathroom door opened, and in came Crystal, her high heels clicking with each step. Her face was soft and delicate, with a rosy glow, and she exuded an effortless elegance. It was like Bella said. She wasn't just beautiful. She was educated, classy, successful. Everything that Rosalind was not. When her eyes met Crystal's, she felt inferiority pierce through her chest. She quickly lowered her head, pulled out a tissue, and turned to leave. "Wait a minute." Crystal suddenly called out to her. Rosalind froze on the spot. She felt a strange sense of shame flow through her after spending so many years as this woman's substitute. Crystal walked up to her and smiled gently. "You're an assistant in the CEO's office, right? Was it, Rosalind?" Rosalind tried to calm her pounding heart, lowered her head, and nodded at Crystal. "Yes, that's right, Ms. Moore. Nice to meet you again, Rosalind." Crystal raised the watch on her wrist, looked at the time, and said to her, "I'm going to hold a board meeting in half an hour. Can you make me a coffee and send it to my office? Need a little pick-me-up." Rosalind was a little hesitant. Andrew was still in the president's office, after all. But she had not resigned yet, so she still had to do whatever Crystal asked her to. Rosalind had no choice but to nod, thinking she would ask Bella to bring the coffee in her place. "Thank you," Crystal said, and walked out with her head held high, the textbook image of a CEO. Her confidence and brilliance were a stark contrast to Rosalind. She felt as though she was like a counterfeit crystal. Useless, something to be discarded. Just like Andrew did to her, Rosalind stood there motionless for a while before she collected herself, exited the bathroom, and went straight to the break room. She made a simple coffee and went to ask one of the others to send it to the CEO's office. However, they had already been called to perform other tasks, so she had to bring it herself. Rosalind timidly knocked twice on the office door. "Come in, please." Crystal's gentle voice came from inside. After taking a deep breath, she summoned the courage to open the door and enter. When she opened the door, she saw Crystal sitting on Andrew's lap. Although she was mentally prepared to see Andrew, she hadn't expected the sight. Her hands trembled, and she struggled not to spill the coffee all over the floor. Afraid that the two of them would notice her discomfort, she quickly lowered her eyes and pretended as if nothing was wrong. "Miss Moore, here is your coffee." Crystal was a little embarrassed and said to Rosalyn, "Just leave it here. Thank you." Rosalyn nodded, put the coffee on Crystal's desk, and turned to walk out. She didn't look at Andrew once the whole time. After leaving the CEO's office, Rosalyn's legs buckled under her. She leaned against the wall to regain her balance. The way Crystal sat so comfortably in his lap, it reminded Rosalyn of how Andrew would position her in the same way when they would have sex. Although the two didn't do anything explicit, Rosalyn's mind was flooded with images of them together before, moaning and grinding and loving each other. She imagined Andrew's hands touching Crystal's body while she sat in his lap, the same way that Andrew had touched her first. But no, that wasn't correct. It wasn't her that Andrew touched first. He had definitely made love to Crystal in that position, and so many more, long before she ever came along. Because she was just his substitute lover. Rosalyn pressed down on her chest, trying to force her heartbeat to slow in fear that it would stop, and struggled to return to her desk. She wanted to quit as soon as possible. She couldn't bear to see the two of them so happily in love in front of her every day for her few remaining days on Earth. She was afraid she might even lose it and walk right up to Andrew in front of everyone at the office, weeping and asking him why he couldn't love her like she loved him. After she finished writing her resignation letter, she went to ask Lily, who was in charge of the CEO's office, to approve it. Lily never really liked her. She didn't try that hard to convince Rosalyn to stay, and only said a few words before agreeing to approve her resignation. The whole process would take a month, and Rosalyn could not leave immediately, so she had to take half a month of annual leave first. She had worked at Elite International Corporation for 5 years, and the annual leave she had was 15 days. It would make sense for her to take a break before resigning. Seeing that Rosalyn was in such a hurry, Lily couldn't help rolling her eyes. "I can approve your leave, but as soon as it's over you'd better come back and finish your work before your last day." "Okay," Rosalyn replied. Then, she picked up her bag and left.
Full story is available at novelpalace.com. Click the link in the comment section to get it free.